Some riders chase horsepower, others obsess over chrome and gear, but none of that makes you a real rider. What truly matters are the hidden details, the ones that don't make it into manuals and don't get talked about at bike nights. Every seasoned rider eventually learns a set of quiet truths. Some come from long miles, others from expensive breakdowns, and a few from watching the same mistakes happen again and again. These aren't small tips. They're the difference between a bike that runs smooth for years and one that drains your wallet or leaves you stranded. Most riders think they've got the basics covered: fuel, oil, tires, maybe chain tension. But the real secrets are subtle, and missing them means your machine is slowly wearing itself down. So if you call yourself a rider, listen closely, because these 15 secrets separate casual owners from true riders. Secret number 15. Fuel range is a lie. Most riders glance at their fuel gauge and trust it like a compass. But here's the hidden truth. Motorcycle gauges are notoriously unreliable. Unlike cars, where the tank and sensor are designed for consistency, most bikes use simple float systems that shift with vibration, tilt, and slosh. One day the gauge shows half full, the next it's hugging empty, even though you filled up just yesterday. The real danger isn't inconvenience, it's false confidence. Relying on the gauge alone leaves riders stranded miles from a station. Or worse, forces the fuel pump to run dry. Pumps use the gasoline itself as coolant, and running them low repeatedly overheats and shortens their life. That repair isn't cheap, and it happens quietly, long before the bike completely dies. The smarter way is simple. Track mileage, not the needle. Every bike has an average fuel burn per tank, and once you know yours, you're in control. Reset your trip meter at every fill-up. Pay attention to how far you get before hitting reserve, not what the gauge claims. Over time, you'll learn your bike's real range in city riding, highway miles, or mixed conditions. It's a habit seasoned riders swear by. A notebook, a mental note, or even a phone app can make the difference between rolling confidently to the next station or pushing your bike under the sun because the gauge looked fine. Your tank isn't lying to you, but the sensor inside it probably is. Mileage never lies. Trust it, and your bike will always bring you home. Secret number 14. Throttle cables stretch quietly. When riders feel a throttle hesitate, stick, or feel heavier than usual, the first thought often goes to fuel delivery. Maybe the injectors are dirty, maybe the carb is clogged. But in reality, one of the most common causes isn't inside the tank at all. It's the throttle cable itself. Cables stretch over time. They're just braided steel under a thin sheath, constantly pulled, bent, and flexed with every twist of the wrist. Add in heat from the engine and dirt creeping in from the road, and the once smooth action slowly gets rough. What starts as a fraction of slack can turn into sluggish response, or worse, a throttle that doesn't snap back when you let go. That's not just annoying, it's dangerous. A sticky throttle can surprise you mid-corner, keep revs higher than you expect, or make braking unpredictable. Riders have gone down from nothing more than a cable that should have been serviced months earlier. The fix, however, is simple. A few drops of cable lube worked into the housing every couple of months keeps the action light and responsive. Check the free play at the grip as well. Too much slack and your throttle response lags. Too little and you risk binding as the bars turn. Adjust it to spec, and the control feels brand new again. It's one of those quiet details most riders overlook until it bites them. But smart riders treat throttle care like chain care, a small habit that prevents a big problem. Smooth, precise throttle control isn't just comfort, it's control of the ride itself. Secret number 13. Brake fluid is a silent killer. When riders think about braking performance, most focus on pads and rotors, maybe even upgrading calipers or lines. But one of the biggest performance losses doesn't come from worn hardware at all. It comes from the fluid you can't see. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture from the air over time. Even sealed systems aren't truly sealed. Tiny amounts of water creep in through hoses, fittings, and even the reservoir cap. You won't notice it happening, but the effects build, mile after mile. That moisture lowers the boiling point of the fluid, and under hard braking, heat causes tiny vapor bubbles to form. Instead of a firm lever, you're left with sponginess, longer stops, and less control right when you need it most. Old fluid also corrodes internal parts silently. Master cylinders, calipers, and ABS pumps can pit and rust from the inside out. By the time you see rusty streaks in the fluid window, damage is already happening. The fix is easy, but often neglected. Flush your brake fluid every 1 to 2 years, even if the bike hasn't been ridden much. Fresh fluid restores the crisp lever feel riders forget their bike once had. It's not just about safety. It's about confidence, knowing that when you grab that lever in an emergency, the response will be instant. Don't wait for your brakes to feel weak before acting. By then, the silent damage has already begun. Clean fluid keeps stopping power sharp and hidden, wear at bay. Secret number 12. Battery neglect is expensive. Most riders think of their battery as either working or dead. The bike starts, so everything must be fine. Until one cold morning, it doesn't. What many don't realize is that a motorcycle battery is far more fragile than a car's. A single deep discharge, where the voltage drops too low, can cut its lifespan in half. And once the internal plates are damaged, no amount of charging will bring them fully back. Motorcycles sit for weeks or months at a time, especially in winter. That's when slow drains from alarms, ECUs, and even the natural chemistry of the battery itself quietly pull voltage lower and lower. By the time you thumb the starter, the damage is already done. Replace a battery once or twice early, and you've spent hundreds unnecessarily. The smarter solution is a simple one: a battery tender or smart charger. These devices keep the charge topped up without overloading, letting the battery rest at the ideal voltage. The difference isn't just convenience. A properly maintained battery can last 4 to 6 years, while a neglected one may fail after just 1 or 2. Even riders who ride regularly benefit. Heat, vibration, and short trips all stress the battery. A quick overnight on a tender every week keeps it healthy and prevents the dreaded click of a dead starter. Your motorcycle depends on that small box of power more than you think. Ignore it, and it will fail at the worst time. Care for it, and it quietly pays you back with years of reliable starts. Secret number 11. Aftermarket exhaust myths. For many riders, the first upgrade after buying a bike is an exhaust. Louder pipes, sleeker looks, a deeper growl. It feels like instant performance. But here's the myth. Without proper tuning, that shiny new exhaust may actually rob your bike of torque instead of giving it more speed. Engines are designed around exhaust flow. Change the pipe, and you change how gases exit the combustion chamber. Back pressure, scavenging, and pulse timing all play a role in how efficiently the engine breathes. Swap in an aftermarket pipe without adjusting fueling, and you may shift power away from the range you actually ride in, losing mid-range torque where you need it most for city streets and corner exits. The result? A bike that sounds faster but feels weaker. The bigger risk is running lean. When airflow increases but fueling doesn't match, combustion temperatures rise. That heat can burn valves, damage pistons, and shorten engine life. Riders often mistake this for extra sharp throttle response, when in reality, the engine is running dangerously hot. The fix is straightforward, but often skipped: proper tuning. A fuel controller, ECU flash, or dyno tune, ensures the new exhaust works with the engine instead of against it. Done right, you'll unlock smoother throttle, usable torque, and the sound you wanted, all without sacrificing longevity. An aftermarket pipe can transform your ride, but only if paired with the right adjustments. Otherwise, it's just expensive noise. Secret number 10. Helmet fit beats helmet price. Walk into any motorcycle shop, and you'll see helmets ranging from under $100 to over $1,000. Many riders assume the most expensive option must offer the best protection. But here's the truth. A poorly fitting helmet, no matter the price tag, protects far less than a cheaper one that fits correctly. A helmet does its job by keeping your head stable and letting the inner liner absorb impact. If it's too loose, your head moves before the helmet does, multiplying the force transferred to your skull. If it's too tight in the wrong spots, riders loosen straps or shift it mid-ride, again compromising protection. In a crash, even the most advanced shell and liner can't save you if the helmet doesn't stay properly positioned. Fit comes first. A good helmet should sit snug all around, with even pressure at the cheeks and crown. You shouldn't feel hot spots or gaps, and when you shake your head, it should move with you, not after you. Even the strap tension matters. Loose straps turn helmets into expensive hats the moment you hit the ground. Price does buy things. Lighter materials, quieter aerodynamics, more comfort features. But safety is not about carbon fiber shells or designer paint jobs. It's about whether the helmet becomes a part of you when it's on. Smart riders get fitted, try on multiple brands, and choose the shell shape that matches their head. Because at the end of the day, the right helmet isn't the one that looks the best on a shelf. It's the one that actually protects when it matters most. Secret number 9. Wet riding eats bearings. Most riders think of rain as nothing more than a visibility or traction problem. But water has another hidden effect. It slowly destroys your bike from the inside out, starting with the bearings. Wheel bearings, steering head bearings, and even swing arm pivots are designed with seals, but those seals aren't perfect. Ride long enough in heavy rain, or hit your bike with a high-pressure wash, and water forces its way past. Once inside, it mixes with grease, turning it into a thin, useless paste. From there, corrosion begins. Steel bearing surfaces pit and rust quietly, and you may not notice until the damage is advanced. A rough feel when turning the bars, a dull grinding sound from the wheels, or vague handling in corners often trace back to bearings that were compromised months earlier. By then, it's not just annoying, it's a safety hazard. A seized bearing at speed can lock a wheel and send you down instantly. The solution is simple, but often skipped. Regular inspection and preventative care. Avoid blasting water directly at seals when washing. After wet rides, especially in heavy rain, dry and re-lube exposed areas where moisture lingers. For bikes that live outdoors, routine bearing service becomes even more important. A fresh pack of grease costs a fraction of a bearing replacement, and it stops rust before it starts. Water may look harmless, but it's relentless. Every ride in the rain leaves its mark unless you prepare for it. Smart riders respect what moisture can do and keep their bearings protected, because once corrosion takes hold, it's already too late. Secret number 8. Cheap gloves cost fingers. When riders gear up, helmets and jackets usually get the spotlight. Gloves, too often they're an afterthought. Many riders grab the cheapest pair they can find, something that looks decent and feels comfortable. But here's the harsh truth. In most crashes, your hands are the first thing to hit the ground, and cheap gloves almost always fail the instant they touch asphalt. Think about the instinct. The moment you go down, you throw your hands out to break the fall. That puts all your weight and all the road's abrasion directly on your palms and fingers. Thin leather, weak stitching, or budget synthetics shred in seconds, leaving skin to take the punishment. The result isn't just scraped knuckles, it's shredded tendons, nerve damage, and permanent loss of grip strength. Injuries that can end your riding life altogether. Quality gloves don't just mean expensive branding. They mean reinforced stitching, abrasion-resistant materials, and proper armor in the impact zones. Hard sliders on the palms, double layers where seams usually split, and retention straps that keep the glove from flying off. These details decide whether you walk away with scratches or months of recovery. Good gloves also improve control. Proper fit and quality materials give better feedback at the bars, smoother clutch action, and confidence in wet or cold conditions. They're not a luxury. They're a tool as important as your helmet. The truth is simple. Your hands are your connection to the machine. Protect them properly, or risk losing that connection forever. Secret number 7. Gearing changes transform bikes. Most riders accept their motorcycle's gearing as fixed, factory set, and permanent. But hidden in plain sight is one of the most powerful ways to change how your bike feels: the sprockets. Adding or removing just a single tooth, front or rear, can completely transform acceleration, cruising comfort, and even fuel economy. Go smaller on the front sprocket or larger on the rear, and your bike gains quicker acceleration. It feels livelier off the line, stronger out of corners, and more responsive in city riding. The trade-off? Higher revs at highway speeds, which can raise fuel consumption and make long-distance cruising buzzier. Reverse the change: larger front, smaller rear, and the effect flips. The bike becomes calmer at speed, smoother for long rides, and often more fuel efficient. But you'll notice slower pickup around town, and overtakes require more downshifting. Neither option is strictly better. It's about tuning your bike to your style of riding. Racers, commuters, and tourers all make gearing adjustments for this reason. suspension. It's one of the cheapest upgrades you can make, often costing less than a tank of premium fuel. But the results feel like riding a different machine. Of course, gearing changes affect your speedometer accuracy, and extreme setups can stress chains and sprockets faster. But when done correctly, they let you tailor your bike's personality to fit you, not the other way around. Don't underestimate what one sprocket tooth can do. For riders who know this secret, the factory setup is just a starting point, not the final word. Secret number 6. Oil choice isn't about brand. Walk into any parts store and you'll find shelves packed with motorcycle oils, each promising better protection, smoother shifting, or more horsepower. Riders often argue endlessly over which brand is best. But here's the truth. The label matters far less than how often you change it. Motorcycle engines are harder on oil than car engines. They rev higher, run hotter, and in many cases, share oil between the engine, transmission, and clutch. That constant shearing action breaks down the oil's protective film quickly. Even the highest-end synthetic loses its edge if it stays in too long. What matters most is consistency. Change oil at the recommended interval, or sooner if you ride hard, in extreme temperatures, or in stop-and-go traffic. Regular changes flush out contaminants, metal shavings, and degraded additives before they can quietly wear down bearings and gears. Skipping just one cycle can shorten engine life more than years of using the wrong brand. This isn't to say quality doesn't matter. Choosing an oil that meets your bike's spec, viscosity, wet clutch compatibility, and proper ratings is essential. But beyond that, the debate over brands is more marketing than mechanics. The rider who uses mid-tier oil but changes it religiously will see far better results than the one who pours in the most expensive bottle and forgets about it for 6,000 miles. The secret is simple. Fresh oil always beats fancy oil that's past its prime. Keep it clean, keep it on schedule, and your engine will thank you with years of smooth, reliable power. Secret number 5. Tire age matters more than tread. Most riders glance at their tires, see plenty of tread left, and assume they're safe. After all, worn tread is what we're told to look for. But here's the hidden truth. Age is just as dangerous, sometimes more so, than wear. Rubber hardens over time, even if the tire looks brand new. Exposure to heat, sunlight, and oxygen slowly changes the compounds inside. The soft, grippy texture that sticks to asphalt becomes stiff and brittle. A tire can look perfect on the outside, but have the grip of plastic. Riders often don't notice until traction disappears mid-corner, or braking distances stretch unexpectedly. Most manufacturers recommend replacing tires after 5 years, regardless of tread. And it's not just theory. Studies show older tires lose up to 30% of their ability to grip, especially in wet conditions. That's enough to turn a safe ride into a dangerous slide. You can check your tire's age with the DOT code stamped on the sidewall. The last 4 digits tell you the week and year of manufacture. If it reads 2419, that means the 24th week of 2019. No matter how much tread is left, a tire from that date is already aging out. The fix is simple. Respect the calendar, not just the grooves. Replace tires that are past their safe age, and your bike will handle sharper, stop shorter, and grip with confidence again. Because when it comes to tires, appearances lie. The rubber doesn't need to look worn to be dangerous. It only needs to be old. Secret number 4. Suspension preload is misunderstood. Ask most riders about suspension preload, and you'll hear the same thing. It makes the ride stiffer or softer, but that's a myth. Preload doesn't actually change spring stiffness. It sets sag, the amount your suspension compresses under the weight of the bike and rider. And sag is what determines whether your suspension even works the way it's designed to. Too little sag, and the suspension tops out, skipping across bumps instead of absorbing them. Too much sag, and you ride deep in the travel, bottoming out over potholes and losing stability under braking. Either way, handling suffers, and the bike feels unpredictable, not because the suspension is bad, but because it's set wrong. Setting preload properly tailors the suspension to you. It balances front and rear, keeps geometry in check, and allows the springs to do their job across their full range. The difference isn't subtle. A bike with correct sag tracks smoother through corners, feels planted at high speed, speeds and responds predictably when braking hard. The process doesn't require a workshop. Measuring rider sag with a tape measure and a helping hand takes just a few minutes. Adjusting preload rings or knobs to hit the recommended range transforms the feel of the bike instantly. Preload isn't about comfort, it's about control. Riders who learn this secret stop guessing and start riding with a machine that feels dialed in. Because when sag is set correctly, the suspension doesn't just carry you, it works with you. Secret number 3. Spark plug gaps. Shift with time. Most riders treat spark plugs as a replace when dead part. The bike starts fine, so the plugs must be fine, right? Not exactly. Even long-life plugs like iridium or platinum slowly change over time. The center and ground electrodes wear with every spark, and the tiny gap between them begins to widen. At first, the change is small, almost invisible, but as the gap grows, the spark weakens. Instead of a sharp, clean ignition, you get a slower, less efficient burn. That means reduced power, rougher idling, and a gradual drop in fuel economy. The bike still runs, but not at its best, and most riders never realize what they've lost until a fresh set of plugs makes the engine feel brand new again. Wider gaps also put more strain on the ignition coils. To jump the larger distance, the coil has to work harder, heating up and wearing down faster. Left unchecked, what started as a simple spark plug issue can turn into a costly ignition repair. The fix is easy. Inspect plugs regularly and don't just look for fouling. Measure the gap with a feeler gauge. If it's drifted outside spec, replace them, even if they look fine. On high-mileage bikes, check sooner rather than later. Plugs are cheap, and swapping them on schedule restores efficiency and prevents hidden wear elsewhere. Riders who understand this know that spark plugs aren't just about sparking, they're about keeping the whole ignition system healthy. Because when the gap grows quietly, performance shrinks just as quietly with it. Secret number 2. Tank bags. Scratch tanks. Tank bags are one of the most useful motorcycle accessories. They keep essentials within easy reach. Maps, snacks, tools, or a phone, without the bulk of saddlebags. But here's the downside riders rarely talk about. Even the best tank bags can quietly damage your paint. Magnets and straps don't scratch tanks on their own. The real culprit is dust and grit that gets trapped underneath. Once the bike is moving, vibration turns that grit into sandpaper, grinding fine lines into the finish. Over time, those light swirls become dull patches, and the tank loses its deep shine. On bikes with glossy paint or custom finishes, the damage is even more obvious. Pressure washes and wiping with dry rags can make the problem worse, pushing dirt under the edges of the bag. Riders often don't notice until they remove the bag months later and see the outlines etched into the paint. The fix is simple: prevention. A layer of clear tank protection film or a dedicated pad under the bag creates a barrier that stops grit from reaching the paint. Some riders even use microfiber cloths as a temporary layer on long trips. Cleaning the tank before mounting the bag also reduces the risk. A scratch tank doesn't affect performance, but it does affect pride and resale value. Protect it early, and your bike will look as good years from now as it did on day one. Because sometimes the damage isn't from the ride itself, it's from the gear you trusted to carry you through it. Secret number 1. Riding posture saves bikes. Most riders focus on posture for comfort, how their back feels, or whether their wrists get tired. But posture affects far more than your body. It can quietly wear out parts of your motorcycle, shortening its life in ways few riders realize. The biggest mistake: hanging on the handlebars with a death grip. When you brace your entire upper body on the bars, every bump and vibration transfers straight into the steering head. Over time, that extra load wears out head bearings, leaving the bike feeling loose and unstable. The rider blames the bike, when in truth it was posture all along. It's not just the machine that suffers. Locked arms and tight wrists cause fatigue and numbness, which reduce reaction time. Riders end up stiff, sore, and less in control. The fix is subtle but powerful. Relax the grip. Keep your elbows slightly bent, shoulders loose, and support your weight with your core and legs, not your arms. Imagine holding the bars lightly enough that a bump won't jolt your whole body. This light, balanced posture reduces stress on both rider and bike, letting the suspension and steering do their jobs. Seasoned riders know the secret. Smooth posture equals smooth riding. It's the foundation of control, comfort, and even mechanical longevity. When you ride with a light touch, not only do you last longer in the saddle, but so does your motorcycle. Because the way you sit doesn't just shape the ride, it shapes the health of the machine carrying you. You've just heard 15 rider secrets, details most people never learn until their bikes fail or their wallets take the hit. These aren't flashy upgrades or expensive mods. They're quiet habits, small checks, and overlooked truths that keep both you and your motorcycle in top shape. The difference between a casual owner and a true rider isn't speed or style or how many miles you log in a season. It's knowing what really matters and taking care of the machine that carries you. If even one of these secrets was new to you, imagine what else there is to uncover. That's why we share this knowledge, so every ride is smoother, safer, and built to last. So keep these lessons close, treat your bike with respect, and enjoy the road ahead with confidence. And if you found this helpful, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It helps bring more of these hidden truths to riders like you. Until next time, ride safe and ride smart.